What is up, y'all? And welcome back to episode 19 of That's No Moon Pod. In this episode, I definitely want to talk about episode 5 of The Mandalorian season 3. Probably my favorite episode of the season so far, to be honest. We got the last two episodes of the Bad Batch season 2, episode 15 and 16. And definitely want to talk about the season finale of the Bad Batch. I loved how they closed out the season and how they set up nicely what exactly we'll be going into for season 3. And I kind of wanted to give my quick thoughts on the whole Jonathan Majors situation that kind of popped off over the past few days of him assaulting a woman in a taxi cab and him getting arrested. So there's a whole new drama situation going around in the Marvel universe. Once again, it seems like Marvel just can't catch a break. But I also want to talk about just kind of where I think the superhero genre is at the moment and kind of what I would like to see from Marvel specifically and hopefully from DC in the future. But I definitely want to start off this episode with The Mandalorian episode 5. This episode was called The Pirate. It's chapter 21. And like I said, this is probably my favorite episode of the season so far. I think it just kind of captured everything perfectly when it comes to just the pacing and the storytelling and how it kind of sets up certain things for the next episode and for what's to come in the future. There was a lot of cool action set pieces with the N1 and Mando kind of just flexing his flight skills. But I really want to know what exactly is gonna happen for Mando, because this whole episode was like, it just had a lot of different plot points, but they all had a nice payoff at the end. And you see Bo-Katan still rolling with the crew, and this episode really kind of turns into a big Bo-Katan plot point for her going forward. And I like how they were able to kind of shift through each story when it comes to the X-Wing pilot and kind of what he's trying to do and help out Grief Karga and Navarro by trying to go to talking to the New Republic and trying to ask for help, and so they could get some reinforcements. That way these pirates who just invaded Navarro and took over Grief Karga's whole town, and the New Republic isn't willing to go out there and help. But then we see what's-her-face, who was rolling with Moff Gideon. She's the double spy who ratted out Dr. Pershing in episode 3. So it's like, just the way they kind of were able to maneuver through each plot point throughout this episode, I thought was done real nicely. there was a lot of points in this episode where I was kind of, you felt the tension and the just the overall storytelling throughout, just how it made you feel. Felt just like when Star Wars is done right, you could just feel it. And I thought this episode was just hands down the best one of the season. I still don't know what to think of Bo-Katan and kind of what we eventually end up seeing her with the armor at the end of the episode, and how the armor's giving her permission to take off her helmet when she pleases, because she walks both paths from the Mandalorians to not. So she knows that Bo-Katan saw the mythosaur, and since she saw one, it's supposed to mean that the new age of the Mandalorians is coming. So the armor is just kind of allowing everything to play out, because this is the way, right? This is how things are supposed to go. Bo-Katan is the one who is meant to take control of the mythosaur and pretty much rule Mandalore with all their people, instead of all the tribes of the Mandalorians always beefing and them always having to stay in hiding, while, you know, they all could just instead join forces and kind of bring their whole clan and their families together, and, you know, just be in one spot instead of always having to be hiding in the shadows. And I thought it was really cool how they portrayed that with the whole plot point with the pirates taking over Navarro and the Mandalorians coming to help, and they came to the rescue and were able to, you know, kind of get the respect of this other group of people, and Grief Karga giving them the land on Navarro so they could settle there. It was just kind of like a cool way of showing the progression of the Mandalorians, and especially from where we've seen them from season 1 and what we know of them and their history and their past. I don't know what to think of Bo-Katan, and if I think that, you know, she's legit. Is she really just gonna stick with Mando and this whole kind of crew with the armor, and is she gonna go and conquer the mythosaur and rule Mandalore with this crew? Or is it all kind of just like a just a whole ruse, you know? Is she kind of playing the clan by, you know, making them trust her to where she has other intentions, to where she don't really care about any of the clan members? That goes for Mando and Grogu. And she just wants to rule Mandalore because she feels that's her birthright, and she'll do whatever it takes to do that. And now that she's got the whole clan and the armor on her side, they trust her. She could be playing them, but I don't know. Just the way she was kind of acting at the beginning of the season, she didn't look like she was, you know, willing to be joining any teams or wanting to kind of get another family again. You know, even though she just lost her crew, she looked like she was kind of bitter at the whole situation she was in. But that kind of leads into See, this is what this episode did so good. It makes you think about things on like what exactly is going on with this character and with this story point, because that leads into the whole thing with the X-wing pilot, and kind of how, you know, he's seeing what's kind of going on with the New Republic, and how um, they're not paying attention on there possibly being a new kind of uprising of the Empire going on. And whenever we finally kind of see him taking actions into his own hands, we get that cool scene with him in that kind of like that bar area where the X-wing pilots are hanging out, and Zeb from Rebels walks over to the bar and kind of has a chat with him. And that was like the first appearance live of action of Zeb, which right away I recognized. I didn't know if it was actually him or not. You know, it could have just been like a swerve that they throw in there to kind of make you think it's this when it's not. But I'm pretty sure that's what it was. Zeb live action, which hopefully sets up some things to go with Ezra and Tarkin and Sabine later on. Hopefully we get to dive into some more of that like cool live action Rebel stuff. But getting back to with the X-wing pilot and how where we see him at the end, and he's investigating that that ship that's just floating out in space, and you could tell it got ambushed by something, and he sends a probe in there to go check it out, and it was Moff Gideon's transport for him to go to prison. And everyone had said rumors that Moff Gideon never even made it to trial, and sure enough, that's what this pilot finds out. But when he's investigating it, and we see that there was like Beskar tracings or whatever on the ship, so now they're thinking that the Mandalorians had something to do with breaking out Moff Gideon. And with this, like I said, how well they set this episode up with, you know, unanswered questions, and for us to kind of theorize and speculate on what we think is going to happen. Whenever Bo-Katan's crib got blasted by those TIE fighters earlier on in the season, we still don't know exactly where those came from and how they knew she was there with Mando and Grogu. So Bo-Katan could have had something to do with this, possibly. And that's kind of why maybe those TIE fighters attacked her in the beginning of the season, to where maybe she has some kind of ties to Moff Gideon, possibly. But I also heard that possibly that it could be hinting at some Death Watch Mandalorians with Darth Maul, possibly. I think that would be insane if they throw in some kind of plot point with that. They're just kind of like these Mandalorians that still have that Darth Maul mentality, and I don't know if that's what's going on here, but whatever it is, I just like how they set up the speculation for this episode, and kind of just sets everything up nicely, and it's exciting to see where it could possibly go from here. Again, I really like this episode. My favorite episode of season 3 so far. And I'm stoked for next week, because this one gave us a lot of unanswered questions, and I can't wait to see where it goes from here. Star Wars was just on fire today. They went 3 for 3 on Mando, and the last 2 episodes of the Bad Batch of season 2. Um, Again, if you're not watching Bad Batch, um, this season was so good, and I would say at least the last 8 to 10 episodes of season 2 of the Bad Batch were all just straight bangers, like different types of stories, but with cool plot points and character development and action. They kind of got away from that whole mission of the week type deal, and um, less of those like non-story driven episodes, but more of like the big time, just in-depth storytelling within the clones and the batch, and just the overall bigger picture on what exactly the Empire is planning on doing. Seeing the Bad Batch go through everything that we've seen them go through, and kind of having Echo come back on the squad for these last couple missions. It was just cool to get the whole crew back together. It's crazy on how a lot of things that went wrong for the batch in these episodes all could have been avoided if it wasn't for freaking Saw Gerrera and his crew, just freaking going in there and trying to blow up the whole place when the Bad Batch were just trying to track this dude's ship and get out of there, but Saw Gerrera and his crew had to kind of mess everything up. And from what we see later on, the Batch get into a situation where they're dangling from a rail cart up in the mountains, and they're trying to figure out a way to get moving back to the ship. And we see Tech, and he chooses to sacrifice himself for the crew so they could get away and possibly get to safety. It was just like an emotional hit, when you see Tech kind of know what he has to do for the sake of his brothers and his sister Omega. And I really liked how overall in the season they really made you care about the clones at a deeper level. In this season, Tech kind of has a lot more to do. We saw what him and I forget what her name is, the character that was with them during when they went and were in those tombs, and those giant like robot monsters came out of that tomb. Like Tech kind of has a crush on her, and she has a crush on Tech, so you kind of get that whole different layer of him, and him how he's like grown as a character, and what we've seen him just not be like the smart nerdy guy in the crew, but really made you care about him on a different level. He has some nice moments with Omega throughout the season, talking points. And even though we don't see Tech die, it's just implied, I'm hoping that there's still hope that he's out there. Maybe he landed in some water or some snow, or these guys don't die easily, and I think it'd be a cool surprise for him to come back in season 3 and reunite with the crew, because I don't know, I'm holding out hope. I think Tech survived the fall, but we got a lot of other cool things in these last 2 episodes. that whole scene with Tarkin and that cloning doctor in that room. We saw Director Krennic and Tarkin asking him about the Project Stardust, and I like how they threw in that quick little, interaction between them two. It was just real subtle. It wasn't, like kind of how in this newest episode of The Mandalorian, how they kind of threw in that joke again that they threw in episode 3 of The Mandalorian, where in episode 3 of Mando, they kind of, Dr. Pershing did that, it's a trap to that Akbar species doctor or whatever. And then today's Mando, they did that whole kind of, when Grief Karga's talking to that pirate, he said that he shot first, or they kind of throw in those little subtle jokes, It didn't feel like that, though, with this Bad Batch with Grief Karga and Stardust, the Project Stardust reference. I thought the Bad Batch did a little bit better job of throwing in some kind of thing like that, like a little subtle interaction there. That was really cool to see. And then, the last episode of the Bad Batch, we see finally Sid and her, just being a rat at the end of the day, pretty much, and giving up the location of the Bad Batch to the Empire. And sure enough, you knew Omega was going to get captured, right? And the whole time I was thinking, okay, they got to be setting up season 3, and I just wanted to see kind of how they were going to do it. And once we finally get to the point to where they come down, they got the batch surrounded, and Hunter's telling Omega, you got to get out of here because you're the one they want. And then she comes back and you're like, okay, she's going to get captured, right? And sure enough, they got the crew. Echo comes through and helps them all out. Sid gets paid. So hopefully she gets what she deserves in season 3, because the batch ain't going to forget about that. And I think the biggest takeaway from the season finale is once we finally see Omega captured and they take her to Nala Se, and where they're holding Crosshair, and we find out that the doctor that was with Crosshair in the room where they're interrogating him, the one with the glasses, she's Omega's sister. So she's a clone as well. So there's a whole new dynamic that's going to be playing out in season 3 between Omega and that doctor being sisters. And I know some people were saying that doctor kind of looked like Omega, but I never really noticed it fully until this one. But that was a whole new thing that they threw in there for us to kind of speculate on for season 3. But like I said, Bad Batch season 2 was fire. Loved it. Love the way they ended it. Love the way they set up kind of just where we're going to be going into for season 3. Just a good day overall for Star Wars. I don't got no complaints. I'm looking forward for next week's Mando for sure. I'm sad there's not any more Bad Batch, but March is coming to an end, and pretty soon we're getting Jedi Survivor, new video game coming out this month in April. So at least we still have that to look forward to, and we still got a few more Mando episodes. So I'm cool with it. And yeah, I guess to end this episode real quick, because I really don't have too much thoughts on the topic, but it was just kind of a crazy out of the blue story that um, came out of nowhere a couple days ago with Jonathan Majors allegedly assaulting a woman in a taxi cab and then him getting arrested for it in New York. I know that a lot of Jonathan Majors, and if you know who Jonathan Majors is, he's the actor who plays Kang the Conqueror, and he was in Loki as well, Creed 3. Jonathan Majors, he's having a big time moment in his career acting wise, and he's supposed to be like this main bad guy going forward for Marvel, and they have a lot of things involving him within each movie going forward, I'm sure. And especially kind of how Ant-Man Quantumania did, and kind of what that set up for him. This drama is not exactly what Marvel needs right now at the moment. And if you're Jonathan Majors, I mean, first of all, no one knows if what he did or not actually happened. I know he's had his people come out and say that they're looking forward to, clearing his name and yada yada. Nothing actually happened. So, of course, that's what they're supposed to say, right? But at the end of the day, I mean, for me, if you're a guy and you assault a woman, I just automatically, like, I'm done with you, right? And again, no one knows for sure yet what exactly happened. So until that whole situation is cleared up fully, I think it's just better for no one to speculate too much, because it's a serious thing and it should be treated as that. But just to get back to the whole thing with what this does for Marvel and kind of what Marvel's been going through recently with the whole, like I said, with the Ant-Man Quantumania thing, how it didn't do so well in box office. Just this whole phase of movies hasn't been a success for them critically, and I'd say it's been pretty divisive with the audience as well. I've still enjoyed some of the stuff they put out throughout this phase. Definitely been hit or miss. I think Marvel right now is trying to figure out ways to make sure that the genre doesn't go stale, because I feel like that's kind of what's already been happening for them. And you see that with Shazam 2 not doing good at all at the box office. And I think people are just kind of over the whole cookie cutter superhero movies now. And, if you just throw in these CGI crazy movies, I think a lot of people are a little over that too when it comes with the superhero genre. Avatar 2 could get away with it because that's a whole different type of, it's not superheroes, it's a different story, it's a different world. That's why that was so successful, and they were able to do something different with the whole universe that they created, instead of kind of just playing it safe and kind of doing what Marvel's been doing lately. I'm hoping they could figure out a way to get back on track. I think Guardians 3, once that comes out, here within the next couple of months. I think that would be a big W for Marvel. I'm super stoked for Guardians 3. I think that's probably going to be the best Marvel movie since Endgame for sure. And then I think that's going to kind of flow right into James Gunn's whole thing with DC, and I think he's going to ride the wave nicely into what he's got coming out for DC in the future. But, I mean, yeah, right now, it's just the whole Jonathan Majors thing. That could throw a big wrench into the whole Marvel universe if, things come out and he ends up being guilty for what he's being accused of. So hopefully they could figure things out with that, and kind of just going forward, they could have success with their movies and TV shows and kind of find a new wave to ride and just think outside the box more. And hopefully they kind of take the approach that DC's having right now with their films and TV shows going forward, and just do something out of the box. Stop playing it safe, and hopefully Star Wars eventually takes that advice and kind of leans into a more different path and what they've been doing, because clearly, you look at what's worked for them and what hasn't worked. They got to realize, at the end of the day, people care about these franchises and they want to see them flourish. These IPs are crazy, but I think with the right game plan and mindset, I think they could still deliver for the fans and still be successful financially for them as well. Marvel with the whole, they're laying off people from the visual effects. I saw that Disney released someone today as well they're just making pay cuts because, stocks are down or whatever. I'm hoping they kind of are able to just kind of get a groove back, because, with these pay cuts or whatever, I'm just hoping it doesn't affect anything coming out within the next couple of years. But who knows? I mean, who knows what's really going on behind the scenes? I just hope that these people have a plan on what they want to do going forward. And, for our sake, I hope they stick the landing at the end of the day. But, yeah, overall, I mean, just being a Star Wars fan, it was a great week for us, and it'll be a great week leading into next week for us just speculating on what we think is going to happen in the next episode of Mandalorian. And yeah, I'm excited once again. I kind of wanted to end this episode with the new thing I wanted to start doing at the end, where obviously I shout out my Instagram and my Twitch. If you want to go follow me on there, at Admire My Moonsalt on both of them. On my Instagram, I post comic books on there with the variant covers of new releases. Every week with the new drops, I always I read a comic pretty much every day, and so I just take screenshots, post them with the variant covers on my IG. So if you're into comics or you want to get into comics, but you don't know exactly where a good starting point is, you can follow me on my Instagram. And what I wanted to start doing is kind of just giving my top pick of the week from last week's drops. Just kind of give my favorite comic that came out last week from the new releases. And for sure, it's got to be Punisher issue number 10. I'm telling y'all right now, if you're not reading this latest Punisher run, it's been crazy from start to where we are now. Issue 10 has just crazy story development with Frank Castle and his family, and you really see like the beginnings of him and his wife and just everything that they've gone through. And Frank has just got crazy powers, and just seeing the Punisher on this type of level of not only just crazy violence but just crazy power in general. It, like, if I were to explain it to you, it just sound weird, right? But if you actually just, if you read the story, it's so cool seeing visually the Punisher with just these like godly powers of strength, and just him with these ninjas and these samurai swords, and just, it just takes his character to a whole different level. And yeah, Punisher issue 10, that's what came out last week. That was the latest one. So definitely, if you're trying to get into comics but don't know where to start, I would definitely recommend this latest Punisher run. But yeah, follow me on my IG. I like I said, I be posting comics on there damn near every day. Like and subscribe to this channel. Comment down below what y'all thought on the Bad Batch finales and this newest episode of The Mandalorian, and maybe give me your thoughts on what you think with Jonathan Majors and this whole Marvel situation. And yeah, I guess that'll do it for this episode. Y'all have a great rest of y'all's week. Y'all stay safe, and I'll catch y'all on the flip. Peace.